inquire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United States economy, Ambassador, is $21 trillion. It's 70% consumption. It's a population of 327 million people. Canada is a population of 37 million people. It's almost a $2 trillion economy. What the United States and Canada share is that they're both mixed economies, highly integrated, with a high level of respect for worker wages, labor standards, and the environment. Mexico is a population of 130 million people. It's a $2.5 trillion economy. Since NAFTA, Mexican's economy grew by a little bit more than 1% a year. The poverty rate is still the same after 25 years, and the minimum wage in Mexico is $5 a day, a little bit less than 63 cents an hour, assuming an 8-hour workday. As has been said here before, trade agreements are worthless unless they are explicit and enforceable. Reading through the North American Free Trade Agreement, the primary goal was the integration of Mexico with the highly developed, high-wage economies of the United States and Canada. This, in the North American Free Trade Agreement, was referred to as wage convergence. You're familiar with the maquiladora factory concept, which was accelerated under NAFTA. It's essentially 3,000 factories that do manufacturing, assembly, and export that are owned by U.S., Japanese, and European companies. They employ 1 million Mexican workers. This has led to a significant increase in pollution and environmental damage along the northern border of Mexico and the southern border of the United States, costing tens of billions of dollars each year to both governments. What, if anything, in the new agreement to replace NAFTA is being done to reform the maquiladora factories and the low wages that are being paid there and the environmental standards that are not being enforced there?
Could you put your microphone on? Thank you.
I certainly agree with your analysis, pardon me, of the problem. We did not see the promises that were made in NAFTA fulfilled. And we didn't see them in a whole variety of areas. The maquiladora process, I believe, was an attempt by Mexico several years ago to try to industrialize and try to develop manufacturing by taking advantage of NAFTA. They did, I would suggest later, they tried to do the same thing about 10 years ago in the auto industry, where they tried to do a similar kinds of thing. What is being done to try to correct these problems? I would come back to what I said before. There are a whole lot of very specific labor provisions that are in this agreement. To me, at least, the reason the principal reason that Mexican labor has not benefited from NAFTA and thus had the effect of benefiting us, because I'm looking at it always from the United States point of view, is these protection contracts. All these maquiladora contracts, or companies have basic contracts that were entered into by these, like we would suggest, not, I don't want to call them fake unions, but at least not real progressive unions like we're used to. This law basically changes that system. And when we talked about the 700,000 contracts that had to be voted on, many of them are going to be in those factories. And for the first time in their history, these workers are actually going to have to know what their benefits are, what their working conditions are, and vote on a contract. So I'm hopeful, and so are reformers in Mexico, that this is going to have a real positive impact.
Just a final thought quickly. Additionally, there's language in NAFTA that's called trade adjustment assistance. and most people believe that that was inadequately funded. And it basically was to say to the American worker, through these trade agreements, there is going to be disruption that will require reemployment and retraining. Is anything done in the new agreement to bolster the level of funding under trade adjustment assistance?
Let me see, just as a general matter, that's something that I'm willing to talk about. I don't have complete control over that area. Trade adjustment assistance, I once had one labor union leader tell me years and years ago about trade adjustment assistance. He said, we don't want a spot at the front of the welfare line. What we want is jobs. And I always thought of trade adjustment assistance in that in that context, even since back in the 70s and 80s. It has a large element of retraining and the like, so there are a lot of good things about it. But
I thank the gentleman, and let me recognize the gentlelady from